All right, welcome back everyone. This is part 2 of making this shampoo cap. If you've missed part 1, I would suggest going to my channel and watching that first. Today we are going to finish making this cap part. If we come over here, I'll show you what we got done. We've got the basic lid and cap done. Turn off the cap here. And this is what we've done so far. And then so far the cap's just really basic. So if we go over to the finished model, as I said in part 1, I'm not going to go over this diamond pattern. So today we need to get this hole put in the cap. We need to add these little pipes to lock it in place. And then we need to make these little arms. And then in part 3, I'm going to show how I measure existing threads on the shampoo bottle so I can make some threads for 3D printing that will fit. So, okay. I think the first thing we should do is get this hole taken care of. And you can see on this spindle, let's keep analysis on for now. You can see right here, this kind of tapers in a little bit. I think I did maybe like 5 degrees, but you know, again, all of this is, you can do whatever you want. You can make this 10 degrees. 5 degrees seem to work really well on my 3D print. And then that same taper is in the cap section. And the idea is that it'll slide in really easy because there's some space right here, and then it just gets tighter, 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 and then closes. So let's take care of that first. That'll be easy enough. So let's turn analysis on. Let's turn everything back on. Okay, and you can see as of right now, the spindle doesn't go up past this cap part. So let's get a measurement to see how far we have to raise this. So if you remember, you can click on a surface or a face and then hold shift and click on another surface. So I have 2 selected. And if you go all the way down to the right, that is a distance of 2.5 millimeters. So let's bring this up 3 millimeters. So let's hide the cap, we'll hide the analysis, and we click on that surface and we hit E for extrude, or you could go up to modify, and where is it at? It's somewhere in here. Maybe it's just, it's right here, extrude. I always use E, it's just an easy one to remember, E for extrude, right? But it's the same thing if you just click this button here. So hit E on the keyboard for extrude, the little window pops up. Right here, I'm going to type in 3 for 3 millimeters, and you can see it raised 3 millimeters there. And like I explained in the last video, it is set to join. If you set this to new body, you can see how now it creates this new body, but we don't need that. We'll just keep it on join. And you can see, before I click OK, you can see a taper angle. You can either type it in right here, so we can type in 5 degrees, and you can see it tapered it out. So we want to go the opposite direction, so -5 degrees. You can also manually do this if you don't need to be precise and you just want to do it by eye and see what looks good to you, right? I mean, even 15 looks really good, but we'll just stick with 5 since I know that works. So let's hit OK. Let's bring the cap back and turn on analysis. And you can see that goes through the cap. So now we're going to use that combine tool again, except this time we're going to use the cut command. So we're going to hit combine, little window pops up. And so how I like to think about this, first it wants you to select the target body, right? We want to cut this from this, right? So we've got the lid, which is the lid has the spindle part here. We want to cut a hole in this. So this is the target body because this is what we want to do something to. So the cap, right? So I'll click on the cap, and then the tool body is the cutter. That's what we want to use to cut. So we're going to select this one. And you can see over here, they're both selected, and you can see one selected, one selected. And then instead of combine, we're going to use cut. And you can see how my tool, which is this body, all turned red, and that's going to signify that it's cutting. However, if we leave it at this, we will lose the tool. By default, Fusion360 will always delete the tool after it's done cutting, and we don't want to do that. So there's a little checkbox here to keep your tools. So you click on that, you hit OK, and now the cap stayed, the lid, the tool stayed here. And if we turn the section analysis off, now we have that nice hole. It cut it out exactly the same diameter, so there's no space here as the spindle here. So that was easy. That part's done. So let's go back to our finished part. And you can see I do have a chamfer, another chamfer up here. We'll do that all at the end. So the next part would be these pipes. This is actually really easy to do. Creating the pipes is super simple. Getting them to be the exact allowance or the exact tolerance you need is tough, right? Because when you initially put this cap on, you have to have enough allowance to actually push it past this without breaking anything. But then when the cap is on, you want it tight enough to where it can't easily get past this. And I don't know why my slider's stopping there. It looks like it almost didn't update. Let's see if we can edit this. Motion. Do I need to go 4.5? Right now I'm setting the max distance I want it to. Oh, and then it goes back to 4. I don't know if that was a bug or something or what's going on here. Let's see if it still does it. Yeah, it's still not doing it. Something's off. Doesn't matter. Just pretend that this pipe touches that pipe, right? So let's show you how to make it. And most likely what's going to happen is when you 3D print this, especially if you don't use my tolerances, and I can tell you what tolerances I use at the end here so you know what works for me. But most likely you're going to have to change the size of these pipes a few times until you get the perfect fit. And that's kind of the same with this tolerance right here for that friction fit that we're trying to achieve. And if you start changing too many things at once, you won't know what works and what doesn't. So let's say this pipe slides way too easily and you notice that these pipes are not quite right. Well, you might want to just change this first so they don't interfere with each other and you don't know which change has worked, right? So I think I ended up printing, I got pretty lucky actually. I think I ended up printing this whole thing maybe 5 times before I got the exact fit I wanted that worked really well. So just remember that you're gonna be playing around with this. So let's turn on our cap. Let's turn on our section analysis. Okay, so let's see what our allowance here. I kind of forget what we did. So I'll click on that inside surface of the lid. I will rotate, hold shift, click on the inside surface of the cap, and we have 0.5 millimeters. So if we did a pipe, well, you know what? Let me just make it and I'll explain it as I go. So let's hide this cap. Making a pipe is super easy. You click on this edge here. You go up to create pipe. Basically, the pipe tool is looking for any kind of edge or line that it can make a pipe on. And you can do all sorts of things. You can make a square pipe, a triangle pipe. I'm going to stick with circle. And you notice it's red, and you notice it's cutting away from my lid here. Well, if you look at operation, it's set to cut. We want new body. And I'm going to put new body and not join because I want to be able to move this around pretty easily for now. And for people who are beginning Fusion360 and aren't new or are kind of newer to this, always pay attention to this window pops up. And whenever you use a tool and you just can't quite figure out what it's doing, you can almost always change some settings over here to get it to work. And a lot of times, I know when I was first starting, this whole join and new body thing always messed me up. I always was missing that, and I had to go back and fix it. So, okay. So if we go to the front view, you can see that this pipe is set right in the middle, right? If we make this circle, this right here is the radius, and it's right in the middle of that edge. And so we know that our cap, let's turn our analysis on, we know that our cap is 0.5, so we want this sticking out 0.25, right? And that'll make a meet in the middle. So let's do the section size as 0.5. And that makes this, that's a 0.5 diameter, which makes this 0.25. And then let's hit OK. And so now we can move this. Here's that pipe right here that we just created. So you can hit M for move, or you can go up here and click here, M for move. So just M on the keyboard. And we want to move a body. Remember, you have to make sure this is correct. So we want to move the body, and it's asking us to make the selection. So we'll click on that body. And this comes up. If you know exactly which distance you want to move it, you got your distance and then your angles here. You can type it in, or you can just drag these arrows. And it always defaults to a 10. I don't know why. I think you could probably change that somehow, but let's just go to -5. And that's probably too much. Let's go to like -3, and we'll hit OK. And let's look on our previous one where we did that. Yeah, so this one's kind of up, this one is lower, and then they catch each other. So there is that pipe. So now let's create a pipe on the cap. And I might as well just name this lid pipe for now, just so we don't get confused. Let's hide the lid. And let's click on this edge. Remember, section analysis is on, so it's only showing half of it, but we'll just leave it on. Create pipe, and it's red, so we have to change to new body. And it remembered my 0.5 here, so I believe I'm not going to mess with that for now, and hit OK. And so for this one, let's hit M for the move tool, click on that body. And I know this is the Z direction, so let's move this up 5. And maybe let's just go 3, so there's enough travel here. And we'll hit OK. Let's bring back the lid. And so now you can see, and I made these small on purpose, right? These will not intersect each other, so they won't stop each other. We have 0.5 millimeters of space here. And 0.25 here and 0.25 here. So they're just going to move right past each other. So we need to make these a little bigger than 0.25 or 0.5. So if we can go back, and if you go to your timeline here, there's our first pipe. So you can right click and hit edit feature. And let's go 0.6. And we'll hit OK. We'll go to this other pipe the second pipe we made, edit feature, and hit. I like to say hit instead of type. Type 0.6 and hit OK, and then it'll just automatically update that. So now there's going to be 0.2 millimeters of kind of interference here, and this is where you're going to have to test it out for yourself. Now in the other one, I think my tolerances are a little different. I don't even know if I can. Okay, so on this one, let me just check my tolerances here. I have 0.6 millimeters here instead of 0.5. And so 0.6 millimeters is my allowance. And if we click on this pipe, go down to the right, it has a radius of 0.335. So what is that? 0.67 is my diameter. And I think I have a 0.67 on this one as well, down here, 0.335. So if you're trying to copy me exactly, 0.6 spacing here, and then a diameter of 0.67 for my pipes. And that worked perfectly for me. I could just go ahead and copy this, but this doesn't matter. This model is just for to show you how to create it. I'm actually going to be publishing this model, the one I've already created, on MakerWorld that people can download. And I think what I'll do is I will keep these threads, because I think shampoo and conditioner bottles are pretty much standard threads. Some are probably different, but what you can do, I might delete these threads and put at the end of my timeline down here. And then what people could do is download this model, and based on the bottle you have, you can make this diameter of the cap smaller and change this thread to fit your bottle, so there wouldn't be as much work. But the whole purpose of me showing you how to make it yourself is so if you have an odd size bottle, you can do it yourself. So okay, so now let's combine these. And now that I've moved them generally to where I want them to be, we can combine them. So I'm going to combine this pipe with the lid. So let's just hide the cap so we don't get confused, and we'll hide that other pipe. So let's go up to combine. The target body, we want to combine this to this. So the target body is the to this. The tool body is what we are going to combine with it, right? And now see, it's set to cut because the last time we used the combine tool, it was set to cut. We don't want to cut this. We want to join. And there we go. And tool body is checked, which means it'll keep this and add it to this. So we don't need this. We can actually just get rid of the tool body. And if you see over here, that body disappeared because now it's part of this. So let's hide the lid, bring up the cap and this pipe. Let's hit combine again. The target body is the cap, the tool body is the pipe, and it remembered our last setting, so join, and we don't want to keep tools, and hit OK. Now here's a nice trick with Fusion. I don't really want to set up that joint, that sliding motion yet, just because I don't feel confident in showing you guys that yet. Maybe I will once this is all modeled, but you can actually, now that this is just a face of that body, you can click on the face, or if you hit the M tool for move, we don't want to move a body now, we want to move a face. So now it wants us to select the face, so we can select the face of that pipe. And now we can actually move this. So let's just type in like 5 and see we just moved the face of that body. So let's type in 6. Let's just get this close to see how much interference there'll be here. So there is our interference. So remember, this has to slide. This pipe right here, because it's part of the cap, will be sliding down. So it has to get past this pipe, but then be tight enough to where it's kind of trapped after the fact. And I mean, that looks okay. I don't know how much difference there is. Let's just hit OK. Can I click on the edge of this? Nope. I'm sure there's a way to measure this, but I'm not going to try to figure it out right now. So we don't want to move that. So if you go down the timeline, I'm just going to delete what I just did. So for now, we're going to call that good. Okay, so what else is left to do with, let me do the section analysis. What haven't we done on the inside? We're not doing this. Okay, this little lip up top on the cap here. So let's do that. That is really easy to do. Let's hide the lid because we don't need that. Let's hide the analysis. Again, there are many, many ways to get this done. The most basic way is to do a sketch. So I'm going to hit create sketch. I want to draw right on the top of this cap. So I'll click on that cap. I'm going to hit C for circle. Click on the, it kind of snaps to the origin. Click. And we've got 26 millimeters. And this is, again, is totally up to you how big you make this. Let's just do, I don't know, 32. And we'll finish sketch. That may be a little big. Doesn't really matter. Okay, we have our sketch. Let's click this, what we just drew, hit E for extrude. And you can see the arrow is going down, but we don't want to go in this direction. We want to go up. So I'm going to type in -3. Oops, I did 0.3, -3. And that looks a little thick, so let's do -2 maybe. And we can join. Remember this little section over here, we want to join it, so hit OK. Let me hide my sketch. So there's our basic topper, and now we can add a, if you see this, it's nice and rounded, so we can add a fillet. So you click on this edge right here, you go up to your fillet tool or modifier. If it's not there up top, it'll be under here, F for fillet. So let's click on that, click on the edge, and again, you can either drag or just type it in. So let's just hit 2 millimeters. Let's go 3 millimeters. And that looks pretty good. Let's hit OK. And remember, we're not going to do any of these details till the end. So you see I have all these corners softened and everything. I'm just going to wait till the end of that. I just want to get the big stuff done, the stuff that will never change. So let's bring the lid back on. There, it's looking really good. Section analysis. Boom. And this is why you don't really need this little diamond design here. I thought you'd need it for some grip. But this little ledge here is all the grip your fingers need to pull this lid up. All right, so where are we at next? So I think the cap is pretty much done. The only thing I might do, and this won't really be, how do I want to explain this? I'm kind of thinking practically for 3D printing. Now 3D printing is pretty precise, but if you look at this model, this cap is perfectly sitting on this surface, right? That my cap that moves up and down sits exactly on this surface. And at the same time it's sitting on that surface, it exactly fits here. And you have to ask yourself, what are the odds that these two are going to line up exact with each other? So what I did on this model, and I don't know if it shows, I think maybe it does. Let me rotate here. You see how the lid kind of sits off of this? Now that's not very clean when you're 3D modeling, but when you are trying to 3D print something, it kind of makes sense. So I'm going to shorten this cap a little bit so then it can get pushed down even further, which will make this really tight. Remember, this is plastic, it's not metal. So this will kind of deform a little bit to make that tight fit, right? So if I hide the lid, let's just turn off analysis to make it. I might click on this and hit E for extrude. I don't want to extrude it down, I want to extrude it up. And I might do like a negative 0.3 and hit OK. And then we want to cut it because we want to remove some of it. And now let's bring back the lid. And now you can see there's a little tiny space there. And basically what that will do, if you think about this upside down, let's just go to the other model. It's upside down, right? That's how it's going to be stored because the bottle of shampoo is going to be here and all that liquid is going to be pushing down on this cap. You kind of want this cap to have a tight fit up against this lid. And even though we do have friction right here, that friction is really meant to just kind of hold the cap in place. Let's say you only wanted it up like this, or if you didn't want it all the way up. You really want more friction. So I don't want this to be an exact fit. I kind of want that to be a tight fit. So by shaving this off, when I push this cap on, when I finally bottom it out right here, it's going to be super tight right here. I hope that makes sense. Like I said, there might be a better way around it, but that's how my brain works, and that's how I'm going to model it. And you know, when I 3D print this, I'm not printing it in place. I'm going to remove this whole cap and print it off to the side. So it doesn't really matter in our model if we have this space there. But I hope that made sense. So okay, I think the only thing left to do, other than the tolerances and stuff, are these arms. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything here. So we've got the spindle, the arms. I did the pipes. We did this curve. So basically the cap is completely done, other than the, like I said, like the roundovers and stuff. So let's go ahead and make these little arms. Okay. So similar to, let's turn the cap off and let's turn the analysis off. Similar to these little arms right here, or these little, again, gussets. I don't know if that's really called a gusset, but these little bridges. I'm going to make those arms in a similar way. And I'm going to start by doing a sketch. So if you remember, let's hit create sketch. If you remember how I did it, on the cap or on this section here. So I want to create a sketch right through the middle of this body. So I'll click on that body. We are going to do a projection. So I'm going to project and intersect. and we want to intersect the bodies, or this body. So I'll hit, and I don't want the link, so I'll hit OK. I kind of explained that, what I just did in more detail in the last video, but basically what I did, that projection tool, whatever plane we are drawing on, whatever body it is bisecting, it will make that sketch. So you can kind of see, if we rotate that, it made that exact sketch of this lid. So if I hide the lid, we now have the slice of that lid. And now I can draw my arms. So we know that these arms need to be higher than the top of this, right? Because in order for this to sit upside down, this can't be resting on the ground. So what we can do is draw a construction line. So when you just draw a line, again, there's always a little window over here, and so always be looking for this when you're using Fusion for extra things. For line type, we're gonna do a construction line, and that just basically means, you'll see here, it's kind of a construction line. It's basically just a reference line. You can't make a model. Like I can't use this line to create a solid body like I can with regular lines. And so we know we have to be higher than this point, right? So now we can turn that construction line off. And by the way, you can turn any line into a construction line. Like I can click on this and it's already a construction line, but if I take that off, it now becomes a regular line. Click on that, turn it into a construction line. And this center line is pretty cool too, but we won't worry about that right now. So I don't remember the shape I used for this one. I'll tell you what, let's see if we can find it. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it. I don't want to spend too much time looking for it if we are. That's how I made those diamonds. I created a sketch and then debossed it onto it and patterned it. So that's not it. That's not it. Just gonna go through here real quick and see. That's not quite it. It doesn't matter. I just thought it would be nice to get that shape if we could. See if it's under my sketches here. Nope. Okay, doesn't matter. We'll just create our own. I mean, it seems pretty basic. It looks like it's just kind of two straight lines. Maybe there's a little curve here. Nope, it doesn't look like it. Two straight lines meeting up to a point. Easy enough. Okay, so I'm going to hit L for line. Remember, we're still in the sketch. I'm going to click on this corner. I'm going to bring it up to here. We kind of want this a little wide, right? Because we want this to be stable when it's on the when it's sitting flat on these arms. And you can see I brought this line up past it. So then we can do this line and click and drag. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that yet. People are way better at sketching than me, by the way. I'm used to like Illustrator and free drawing, so a lot of times I don't measure anything and I just kind of do it by eye. So I'm going to just do that line. I know this is parallel here, or horizontal, because it's got this little horizontal parallel constraint. I'm sorry, equal. Nope. I think this is parallel constraint. And of course I just deleted it somehow. What am I doing? Okay. So now let's make this line from here, and we'll just connect it. We don't need to connect it way out here. I just wanted to make sure this was in line here. So let's just do maybe, I don't know, something like that. And if you want to trim that excess off, you can go up to the little scissors here, trim, and trim that. And let's see how long this line is. If I click on that, it's 3.4 millimeters. That's probably okay. Again, change it however you want. And so there is our wing. So let's finish sketch. By the way, before I quit, you know, I do try to teach you guys. I guess I'm not really trying to teach you. I'm just trying to show you what I do. I'm definitely no expert. There is a whole science or the right way to do sketches. So everything is constrained. You have dimensions everywhere. So, gosh, it's a good habit. If you want to really learn Fusion 360, if you're going to make really complicated models, especially ones that are maybe parametric, you really have to get used to defining your sketch, right? So I can come in here to the sketch dimension, click on this, and hit enter. And then you can start defining all of these distances, and that really is good practice. And watching me not do that is probably a disservice to you, but honestly, to be honest with you, I never do it. And I probably should get better at that, but oh well. Here we go. Finish sketch. Go look up how to dimension your sketches and draw right and draw correct sketches. So here is my sketch. Let's turn our lid back on. And so just like these arms right here, I want to create a body with this. So I'm going to use the revolve tool. It wants me to select the profile, which is this. We don't need the new body. We can join it. And it wants to know the axis. I'm just going to click this edge here. Oh, it's not letting me. So where is my axis here? Select axis. So first I had to click on this to make sure that's what I was choosing. Now I can choose this edge. And you can see it went all the way 360 degrees around. That's actually kind of cool, but I don't know if that'll work for what we want. Let's just make the leg. So let's do maybe 50 degrees, not 3,000. Let's hit enter 50 degrees. And that's okay for now. I'm going to teach you, we actually want this to taper in. And I'm going to show you how I do that. I'm really just looking at the base here. We're going to have 3 of those. So that should be plenty. One will be about right here, and then one will be about right there. We have to have enough room to get our fingers in here, right? To be able to take this cap off. So maybe let's just do 45 degrees. And let's hit OK. And let's hide the sketch. Okay. There we go. That's not looking too bad. Okay, let us, how do I want to do this? Let's see if we can just use the move tool. I don't know if we can. This is not how I did it. I think last time I drew this on a plane, on a front plane, so I don't have this directly on a plane. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of talking to myself. Let me hit M for the move tool. I'm going to anchor it, set pivot. I'm not sure if I'm going to get this to work. Right there. Let's hit OK. Let's see if this is going to work. Oh, it does work. Okay, let me explain what I just did. I want this to taper down. You see how it's supposed to be the widest point here, and then it's supposed to taper in, right? Like this. Now, how I did this one is I actually drew this, and then I put a plane. Let's see if I can show it here, right here. I made a plane further out, but see how this one is exactly on this front face? So I drew a sketch on here, and I drew 2 lines coming in, and then I cut the body with those 2 lines. So this is probably easier. We're just going to use the move tool and rotate this face. So you can click on that face, hit M for move, and obviously if we do it from here, that's the pivot point. So that's not going to work. Come over to your window, set pivot. And when you set pivot, if you just drag along this line, it's going to snap to the center of it. Snap. Click it. And then now you have to click the check mark saying you're done setting the pivot point. So now we can now it's going to pivot from this point, and we can just use this rotation handle and rotate it in. Let's say 15 degrees. How's that look? That looks pretty good. Let's do maybe 20. Okay, let's see how that looks. Let's hit OK. Let's do the same on this side. M, select the face, M tool, click on set your pivot. Got it. Hit the check mark, and let's do 20 degrees here. And hit OK. There. I think that looks pretty good. And again, you can change this however you want. This may be a little different than this. Not sure that's going to give me quite the same geometry of how I just did that, but again, for this model, I think it's fine. Okay, so now we need 3 of these. So we're going to do features. We're going to rotate a pattern we're going to make a pattern out of features. So go to feature pattern, circular pattern, and we want features, and it wants us to now select the features. So we're going to click the revolve, the move, and the move. And that basically just selected everything we just did. And now the axis, we're going to click on this edge, and it's already set to 3. You could set this to 4, but remember you want 3 because 3 will always sit on a surface flat, right? If you think about a table, if the surface you're setting this on isn't flat, it's going to rock. But 3 legs always sits all 3 legs on any surface. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think I'm right. So let's hit OK. And it did not do my taper there. So I wonder why. Let's do edit circular pattern. I have the 3 selected. Identical maybe? Is it okay? Nope. Edit circular pattern. Now why did that not? I had features selected. I tell you what, let's do this a different way. I'm really not sure why that didn't pattern that exactly like this one. So let's just delete that. And someone in the comments, I'm sure, hopefully can tell me why that didn't work. So let's go to create, pattern, circular pattern. And this time we're going to select faces. And so I'm going to select all of these faces. And so I've got all those faces selected on that. I'm going to choose the axis. We've got our 3, and now it did it. So again, I can't stress this enough. Always pay attention to this little window, because if something doesn't work how you want it to, you can do it differently, right? Instead of doing the features down here, which I thought would work, I had to choose faces instead, and now it worked perfect. Okay, let's put this cap on. We're looking pretty good. This one looks a little bit more complicated, but we're not doing this diamond pattern. So, okay, now let's get these curves on here, and then we'll do the tolerances and that kind of thing last. Because remember, we're saving the things that we might change after 3D printing for last, right? Once we print this, we may need to change the size of this pipe, which I know we've already created back here, but so I guess that's a little different. I probably should have saved these pipes for the end, but all of these chamfers and stuff like that, we want to save to the end so we don't have to mess with them when we need to change these tolerances. I hope that makes sense. Now that I'm saying it, I don't even know if it makes sense, but we're not going to change the things we do to the outside, right? Because this is just cosmetic. So we can click these edges. We're going to add some fillets. And remember, you hold shift on the keyboard to select multiple edges or multiple of anything. So now I have all of those selected. I'm going to choose fillet. And let's just type in like 2. And we're going to need more than that. Let's do 5. There, we're getting those rounded edges. And this not only makes it, oops, it looks like I forgot an edge. Can I select another edge? Let's hit cancel here. How did I miss that edge? Okay, I got all 6 selected. So fillet, let's do 5. And there, I mean, that looks pretty good. So not only does this make it more nice to hold, but it also strengthens it, right? Because adding that fillet, let's go to 6 and see how that looks. Adding that fillet gives it more meat where it's connecting to this lid. So let's hit OK. I like that. And what else did I do on this? Looks like I rounded over all of these edges, and that's about all I did. So to make this not as sharp, again, you can click on these edges. There's probably faster ways to do this. Don't want that face. Let's just see if doing one edge. Let's just do all of them. Of course, now I'm gonna fail doing this. I'm gonna speed up the video here. Okay, I'm going to stop here. I was having some trouble here. It wouldn't let me round over this edge. I think there's something about this transition here that when I tried to round over this edge, it was giving me an error. And I think that must have happened on this one too. You see, I don't have this rounded over, but it's rounded over everywhere else. So again, there might be better ways to do this because I would like to have this rounded over. And the same with right here, but again, for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm just gonna do these edges. I probably don't even need to do this and actually, you know what? You could have rounded these all over and then repeat and did the pattern after the fact, but then you'd have to go select all these faces, and that would have been troublesome too. So once I have the edges that I want, you just click fillet, and I'm gonna do 0.5, hit OK. And now those edges are rounded. Same thing with here. I'll select all of these edges here. Go up to fillet, type in 0.5, hit OK. Okay. So now we have our somewhat nicer rounded edges. And did I round over anything else? You don't want sharp edges when you're 3D printing stuff. So it's always good to design in a way that you can round things over. And I don't always do it. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to round this over. Let's hit 0.5. See, I'm getting an error. It's just too complicated, these miters. So we weren't going to get into fixing that. So, okay, now we can round over this lid. So this lid, this will be printed upside down like this, right? You don't want to do it. You don't want to do a fillet on the print bed because those don't print very well. So you always want to do a chamfer. So, but let's round over this with a fillet. So we got this edge, fillet. Let's just go 1 millimeter fillet. That looks pretty good. We can hit OK. And then on the bottom, we're going to add a chamfer, and I'm going to hit 1 and hit OK. A chamfer will print much nicer than a fillet on the bottom. And so that's why I did that. And now you've got a nice smooth edge here. Now, honestly, you could get in here and add a chamfer here, but this is such a small space. What do we got here? 0.127 millimeters. That won't even be noticeable when you're 3D printing. So, okay. Turn the lid back on. Let's turn our analysis on. What am I missing here? I think we are pretty. Oh, we got to do some tolerances in here. So I think on this tolerance, because this worked really, really well for me, let's click on this edge. Let's scroll in, see if I can click on this other edge. 0.15 is my spacing there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this lid off. I'm going to click on this, and remember that if you turn the analysis off, it is selecting the whole thing, but with analysis on, it's kind of showing us in the middle. I'm going to press, there's two options to do, press pull or offset. And honestly, I'm not sure if I figured out which one's different. I usually just choose offset because I get it to work more often than not. So let's find out what this arrow is doing. So the arrow is going to make it bigger, right? So if we turn analysis off, it wants to make it bigger. So I'm going to go negative 0.015. And that just made that much smaller. I'll hit OK. Let's turn on analysis and we'll make sure this actually worked. So I'm going to zoom in here. Let me reset my thing because it's not zooming. And if I click on this, I think I can see the offset. There we go. And I click on this, 0.15. So there is that tolerance. And now we want to beef up some of these other areas on the internals. You see I have all these chamfers and stuff set. So let me kind of run through this. So if this lid, this cap is going to go on this lid, this corner is a sharp corner, right? And it's going to be hard to fit this perfectly in. So we want to chamfer this to make it a little easier to move in. Now, this is fine, and that's probably how I did it there. I just did a 1 millimeter chamfer, but it's set to equal distance. You can do a to distance and angle if you know the dimensions or the angles you want. So we can actually make this first one 0.5, and that'll leave this a little thicker here. And then you could do this one at 1.5. See, it's two different distances. And we're just doing this so this transition into this pipe is smoother. And I actually kind of like that. So let's leave it at that. The other chamfers we want to make are for strength. Now 3D printing, this isn't a whole lot of space right here, right? If I shut the analysis off and I shut the lid off, this tube will be really easy to break out because there's just not a whole lot of meat there. But look at all this space we have in here. So I'm going to chamfer this by and we'll go back to just equal distance on the thing, like 2 millimeters. And then look at how much that beefs that up, which is going to make this whole tube a lot stronger, and it doesn't get in the way of anything. And same thing with this. I mean, there is like a lot of meat here, but it definitely could be bigger. So let's chamfer this one first just to create some room. Hit OK. And then we'll select this edge, hit chamfer, and we'll do another chamfer there and hit OK. And you see none of these are going to interfere with each other. And I believe that's the only chamfer I made. Now, the one thing I'm looking at and I'm a little concerned about is the travel space here is roughly about the travel space for this inner tube to come up here. And we may want to make that longer. So I'm kind of glad I caught that. So I tell you what, let's go back and change that. So this first chamfer that we just did here was right here. See, if you highlight it, or if you actually come in, let me hide the lid. If you click on this chamfer, it'll show you where it's at in the timeline. So I'm actually going to delete that. Let's bring the lid back, and I want to extrude this down. So I'm going to hide the lid for now. Actually, no, let's bring it back. Let's see how much space we have. So if I click on this edge, and then shift click on this edge, there's 2.5 millimeters of space. And remember, we do have, I think we did 0.3 millimeters here, so it'll be 0.3 millimeters lower, so that's 2.2. So let's drop this down like another 1.5 millimeters. So I'm going to hide the lid. I'm going to click on this, hit E for extrude, and I'm going to type in 1.5. And join, because we're joining it to that. So I'm going to hit OK. Now let's bring back the lid. And you see we have plenty of space there. And we could have dropped it down lower if you want tighter allowances there, but that's fine. So let's click on that edge again, and let's do our chamfer. And we're going to do the two distances. So the first distance, what did we do? 0.5? Or maybe we did 1? Let's tell you what, let's do 0.75. Let's cut that about right in the middle. And then for the other chamfer, we'll do 2. We'll hit OK. Now that'll slide in real easy. So yeah, now when this moves, I don't think this friction will make it. And you know what? We could always move this up. And actually, let's see if I can stumble my way through the joint tool, the assembly section up here, so we can make this move and we can test this out. So, okay, I think we're pretty much done modifying it. Let's just double check everything. We've got our pipes. I think all of our tolerances are good. Everything is looking pretty good. Oops, we want to chamfer this guy right here just to make that look a little better. So let's just do like let's set it to equal distance. Let's just do like a 0.5 chamfer. Let's see what that looks like on analysis. Oh, and look at that. That lined up perfectly. So let's hit OK there. Okay. I think we are pretty much done. And if we're not, I'll catch it on the next video. All right. So in order to make a joint, and we're going to do a sliding joint, the bodies actually have to be components. And again, I don't like to follow the rules. I'm kind of a sloppy Fusion360 designer. I don't use components. I usually just stick with bot. I mean, I usually print for 3D printing or design for 3D printing. So there's usually not a whole lot of parts. And if you are making really complicated models, you probably do want to set it up as components instead of just bodies. Again, you should learn those basics from someone far better than me. But anyways, we need to set these bodies up as components. So let's turn off the analysis, and up in the assembly section, which is where you make a joint, you can click new component, and we want to click we're going to do one at a time here. Oh, let's see how we do this. Internal, standard component. Oh, from bodies. That's what was making me messed up. So we want two components because we need to have a joint, you need to have two components together. So again, see, even I just got confused and I had to look over at this window. So from bodies, and what is the body we want to make a component? Well, we're going to make this lid a component, and we'll hit OK. And so now you can see it took that body out of here and it turned it into its own component. So now let's do the same thing with the cap. So let's go to new component. From body, we're going to select the cap and we're going to hit OK. And now we have all my bodies went away up here, and we have a lid component and a cap component. Yours might disappear. I think the settings for Fusion360 is that whatever component you're working on, the other one disappears. I think to change that, you go up to preferences. Oh man, how am I going to find this on the fly here? It's in here somewhere. Assemblies, active component visibility. I think if that is checked, only your active component is visible. So you want to uncheck this if you want all components visible. I hope that makes sense. So, okay, let's do our analysis, turn back on. Now let's make a joint. So we're going to click up on joint. The motion we're going to do is a slider because this cap is going to slide up and down. And, oh man, I'm going to fumble through this, so bear with me. I think component 1 is the one that's doing the moving and component 2 is the one stationary. So let's just click. What it's asking me is what axis or what direction we want to snap this to. So we have to pick something that both can reference each other, right? So we could pick this circle and this circle because they are mostly on the same plane. This little gap I created, I think, is going to screw things up a little bit. So for component 1, let's choose this circle. And that, if you see right here in the middle, when I click on that circle, it shows up. So we'll click on that. And then it automatically goes to component 2. So now we have to pick something on component 2. So now we can click this inner circle. And you see how they matched up now? They basically aligned with each other, which, you know, will screw up our tolerances here, but that's what we want in real life, right? We want that to be really, really tight. So let's hit motion now, and I think maybe we can drag this already. Nope, we can't. So we want to set a maximum height it can go, and so I don't know if I can drag this yet. I still can't. Oh, yes, I can. So negative 7.4, let's do maybe negative 6. We can just keep adding until we get this to where they're basically touching. So let's do maybe 0.5. Let's zoom in here. Sometimes you got to reset this. Zoom in. So that's a little too much. 6.45. 47. That looks pretty dang close. And we're going to reset. Actually, let's not reset. And hit OK. Sorry, I'm sure that wasn't a great explanation. Let's see if I got this to work. And where's my joint here? Why can't I move it? Okay, I know why. One of these, am I moving the different one? One of these needs to be not active. So the lid is the anchor. Okay, the lid is already the anchor. So maybe I did this backwards. Someone who's watching this who's used to doing these joints is going to be yelling at me through the computer. Let's edit the joint. We have it selected here. What is going on? Oh, I wonder if I flipped it the wrong way. So the minimum, maximum, what do we say, 6.45? Gosh, I'm screwing this totally up. I should just quit while I'm ahead. And I'm not even ahead. Quit while I'm behind. We'll do 0 is the minimum. And the maximum is 6.45. Negative 6.45. Hit OK. Now, why won't this move? Let's turn off analysis. Let's just hide the joint. Okay, I'm missing something here. Let's go back into that joint again. Edit joint. Sorry, guys. I might have to delete this. Motion. Oh, preview limits. Let's just preview it. Okay, it's not moving at all. For some reason, I want this to be, this keeps changing on me. Why does this negative 6.45? Now let's, okay, no minimum. For whatever reason, these just won't change on me, or these won't stay where I want them to stay. Let's try that. Hey, look at that. Gosh, guys, that was a mess. Okay. See, that's why I told you earlier that I wasn't going to try to explain joints, because I'm really bad at them. But now you can see it move. So let's hit OK. Now I think I can move it. There we go. Okay. And so now as I move it, thank you for sticking around with that. Now that I move it, you see how we extended this earlier, and we really needed to, because we needed that extra room for that stiffness. Honestly, we may want to change this chamfer so there's even more friction here, and I think I'm going to do that for the base of this, for this model. But there is our action. So I think what I can do, this is where I get really confused. Now that we're in components, I'm not sure a good way of editing this. Again, someone in the comments, I hope you can show me. It deletes our history when you turn it into component, and that's probably why it's a good idea to start as a component in the first place. So we don't have a history to change this, but we can kind of let Fusion do it on its own, and maybe you can just click on this and hit the delete button, and Fusion will be like, Fusion will kind of know what you want to do. Oh, you want to delete that chamfer, and it'll just put it back to normal. So if we turn cap back on, now that gives us a lot more friction here. So I think we want to make this chamfer a little smaller. So we want to work on the cap, not the lid. And so let's click on this edge. Let's just do like a simple 1 millimeter chamfer. And I am going to do the two distances, and we're just going to do 0.75 on this one. So there's more meat on this edge. There, that makes me a little happier. And as we bring it down, see if these interfere with each other. They do not, but you know what? That's getting pretty dang close. Actually, I tell you, you know what we could do? Never mind. I'm not going to go back. Let's not confuse this. Let's not get it any more confusing. You could use the cut command. If I would have done this before I added these tolerances, and we could get rid of this chamfer and just extend this further into this and cut away into this. And that way we could extend this even further down. But I think for this video, I don't think we need to do that. So there it is. Man, what a journey. What a journey to make this this cap. But there it is. The next video, I am going to try to figure out a way to videotape. I've just started making YouTube tutorials, so I don't have a great camera setup or anything like that. I mean, I have an iPhone and I can figure it out, but I'm going to try to video me using a calipers and measuring the existing threads on the shampoo bottle, and then we'll come back into this model that we're creating here to make those threads. So that will be the next video. And I'm glad I made it through this without a whole lot of trouble. That looks really nice. Okay. Gosh, if you hate this video, tell me about it in the comments. If you like the video, let me know. I'd appreciate it. But hopefully you learned something. And again, if you're much smarter or much better than me, in the comments, let me know and let everyone else know what could have been done differently, and so we can all learn. But I think for now, we will cut it off. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and have a good one. Okay, everyone, I'm back because I forgot to do something. The main point of doing this slider is to kind of just check to one, you can kind of see how close they get. But the other thing is, look at how much space we just created here. That seems way too much. You know, I was concentrating on this and how much friction we have here, but really this cap doesn't need to come up that far. We have got, if I click on this edge and this, or I'm sorry, that face and this face, we have 4 millimeters of space here. This could be brought down probably at least a millimeter, maybe 1.5 millimeters. So what we can do to change that is change one of these pipes, right? So I can bring this down. I'm going to, let's move this one. We'll move this one up. So I'm going to M for the move tool. Faces are selected. I'm going to move this up on the Z-axis 1.5 and hit OK. And now, of course, I'm going to have to go back into the stupid joint slider thing, or the joint, and see if I can figure out how to make this work. So we're at negative 6.5. So I think maybe we want to go to negative 5, 4.95, negative 4.95. Did I do that right? Yeah, look at that. I did it right on the first try. So now there is much less space here that this needs to open up, and we have way more friction here to hold this cap in place. That's the nice thing about this slider is, you know, you wouldn't really be able to visualize how high up this cap was going to go without setting up that joint here. And hopefully, I'm sure there's some good YouTube videos explaining way better than I just did on how to use those. I kind of fumbled my way through it, but there we go. Now we just changed the height, and now we have 2.65, so a little bit less. Okay, I'm not going to babble this time. That's all I wanted to show you.